Hello and welcome to my channel, Rhino here. Today I'm finishing with the 100 questions video that I started last week, and I'm finally getting my life organized enough that I was actually able to get a second video out last week. Yay! And I'm still far enough ahead that I don't even know how you guys liked the first 49 questions. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that it was so popular that y'all demanded that I finish it immediately. As long as I have to imagine your reaction, it may as well be a positive one, right? Anyway, let's go! Question 50. Where is your evidence that Jesus was not crucified? Well, seeing as how I hold the position that he probably was, I don't really feel the need to answer this, except to point out that, while it is my position that he was crucified, it's not a very strong position. It's just such a mundane claim that I don't find it worth arguing against. Question 51. Why do you reject the resurrection of Jesus? Because it has not met its evidential burden. That one is such an extraordinary claim that I would need more evidence than just a handful of books written decades after the fact. I don't even accept that Emperor Vespasian had healing powers, even though we have writings from Tacitus where he interviewed actual eyewitnesses to the event, not some anonymized chain of people being claimed as witnesses but never directly asked about it themselves. He actually talked directly to witnesses. There is much better evidence for Vespasian being a miracle healer than there is for Jesus' resurrection. And I don't accept either because those claims are anything but mundane. These are the types of claims that if you want me to accept, you need to bring actual evidence to the table, not the words of an ancient book. And I'm not disparaging it because it's an ancient book, it's just that I know that ancient books are capable of reporting things that are not factually accurate, and it seems way more plausible to me that the Bible just reported something that is factually inaccurate than that for one guy that one time, everything we know about biology got flipped on its head. Question 52. Where is your evidence that he did not rise from the dead 3 days later? Of course, we get yet another attempt to reverse the burden of proof. You are making the claim, you provide the evidence. But also, your timeline is off. If we take the Bible at its word, he died on Friday afternoon and was up again by sunrise on Sunday morning. Sunrise in springtime in Jerusalem happens around 6 a.m. and he died around 3 p.m., so from 3 p.m. Friday to 6 a.m. Sunday is 39 hours. So he wasn't even dead for 2 full days, much less 3. But then again, if we take the Bible at its word in another place, then yeah, he was in the heart of the earth, whatever that means, for 3 days and 3 nights. Not 1.5 days and 2 nights, so there's that. Question 53. Why do you deny the existence of Jesus but accept the existence of Muhammad? To reiterate, I am not a mythicist. I do accept the existence of Jesus. That said, there is better evidence that Muhammad existed than Jesus, so I imagine the quality of the evidence would be the answer that a mythicist would give. Question 54. Do you celebrate Christmas? Yes. Question 55. Did you know that Christmas is a Christian holiday commemorating the birth of Jesus? Counter question. Do you honestly think that it's even possible for an atheist living in a culture that celebrates Christmas to not know that when it gets slapped in our faces everywhere we go during Christmas time? And please note, I am not saying that we need to stop everyone from saying Merry Christmas or from putting up nativity displays or whatever. That's fine, I don't mind it, just be mindful that not everyone has the same beliefs as you, and don't get all pissy about it when you see someone celebrating in a way that you would not. I've seen Christians respond to being told Happy Holidays with anger and rage, insistently correcting the offending well-wisher that it's Merry Christmas because of Christ. Hey, chill out. They were just telling you that they want your holy day to be a happy one. That should not be offensive to you. Also, keep the nativity scenes on privately owned property. It doesn't belong on government property. Question 56. Do you say Merry Christmas? I switch freely between Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Question 57. Why do you want to prevent people from saying Merry Christmas? Again, to turn this into a counter question, why did you bother asking question 56 if you were just going to assume that the answer is no anyway? Obviously, if I say Merry Christmas myself, then I'm not going to be trying to prevent other people from saying Merry Christmas, though I will fully support any business decisions to have their employees say Happy Holidays. Businesses serve a variety of customers, not all of them celebrate Christmas, so it can just be respectful to not assume that they are celebrating Christmas. Same goes for government employees, but ultimately, it's not really a hill that I'm willing to die on. Question 58. Why do you want to force people to say Happy Holidays? I don't. You can wish people grumpy holidays for all I care. That's your prerogative. Just be aware that people might start to think you're an asshole if you do that. Question 59. Do you celebrate Easter? Oh God, is this just going to be a repeat of the last few questions but with Easter instead of Christmas? Yes, I celebrate Easter. I actually do it wrong according to a lot of people because we have our egg hunt on Friday and then binge on chocolate for the weekend rather than waiting until Sunday for the hunt. And I think that breaks the metaphor that the egg is supposed to represent. Isn't it supposed to be new life with the resurrection or something? Question 60. Did you know that Easter is a Christian holiday commemorating the resurrection of Jesus? Yes, I did know that. And no, I don't think that it was a stolen pagan holiday. There is very little evidence for that, though I will certainly grant that their method of setting the day for Easter sounds pagan as fuck. First Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox? Yeah, it sounds paganish. It is worth pointing out, though, that the reason for this was actually anti-Semitism rather than stealing from the pagans. There's not really any major pagan festivals that coincides with the Passover, not that I'm aware of anyway. They did most of their stuff at the equinox and the solstice. They used that method for figuring out Easter because they wanted a method of determining the date that didn't rely on the Jewish calendar, which is a lunisolar calendar. So they had to get funky with their calculation, and as a result, Easter is usually near Passover, but doesn't always line up with it like it should. Now, are certain aspects of Easter celebrations borrowed from the pagans? Well, egg painting might have some of its origins in pre-Christian Ukrainian folk culture, but that's basically it. The bunny didn't show up as a symbol associated with Easter until about the 1600s, which would put it firmly in Christian territory, and this is a hill I will die on. There are plenty of good arguments against Christianity. We don't need to use bad ones as well, just because we think there's some sort of gotcha. Question 61. Do you say God bless you when someone sneezes? Not usually, no. Now, question for you, do you know why you do say God bless you when someone sneezes? It's because of an old superstition where it was believed that sneezing left your body temporarily without a soul, which then leaves your body open to demonic possession. Saying bless you was a way to protect you against demonic possession during that brief absence of a soul.
And when you sneeze, that's your soul trying to escape. Saying God bless you crams it back in.
So, if you say bless you when someone sneezes, do you believe that sneezing leaves you momentarily soulless? Question 62. Why do you want people not to say bless you when someone sneezes? I don't actually care, at all. But isn't that just a weird quirk of society? Why do we do it? If you cough, you say excuse me as a way of apologizing for making a disruptive noise. But if a similarly and often more disruptive noise happens to be a sneeze rather than a cough, then suddenly all the people you have disrupted are expected to be pouring blessings onto you? It's just odd and makes no sense if you spend a moment thinking about it. And actually, my brother-in-law has some fun with this. He recognizes the weirdness of having a thing to say when someone's body does an involuntary thing, so whenever somebody burps or farts in his presence, he says congratulations. Now, do you think that this is a tradition that we should adopt? And if not, how is it functionally any different from blessing someone who sneezes? Question 63. Why do you want to take prayer out of school? Well, that depends on what you mean by prayer here. If you mean people being allowed to privately pray, students or staff, then that's fine. If you mean things like that football coach making a big show of kneeling at the 50-yard line to pray after games, which, for some reason when you read the news articles about it, they almost all say that it was private, but just look at this picture and tell me that that's private. Then because that football coach is working for a public school, he is an agent of the government. His public displays while on the government payroll amount to government endorsement of his religion, which violates the religious liberty of any of the students who do not share that religion. So prayer that is actually private is fine. Public prayer by government agents, though, not fine. Now, consider this. If a Muslim teacher started leading students in prayers to Allah, you'd have a problem with that, right? Well, that's the same problem that any non-Christians, or even some Christians of different denominations, have with Christian prayer being led by teachers and coaches. Question 64. Should a teacher be fired for talking about God in their class? It depends entirely on the context. Is it a history or anthropology class, or a class on religion? Then the subject of God and gods is often relevant there. Is it a math class? God doesn't really belong there, so possibly. I would actually need to know how the subject even came up in the first place. Also, it matters whether this is a first offense or not. I'd want a harsher punishment for a serial offender than I would for someone who tries to keep their religion separate but slipped up once. Question 65. Should a teacher be fired for talking about Jesus in their class? Ibid. Question 66. Should a teacher be fired for talking about Muhammad in their class? Ibid? Question 67. If the answer to the last one was no, why is Muhammad okay, but Jesus isn't? Why are you just assuming that the answer to the Jesus one was yes? Someone's been watching too much God's Not Dead. Question 68. Why do you want to censor opinions that you disagree with? Why do you assume I want to censor opinions I disagree with? Let me put it this way. Alex Jones is a man for whom I have a significant amount of contempt. He just filed for bankruptcy, and it has been suggested that this bankruptcy is a strategic one to delay his having to pay out a judgment against him for the Sandy Hook defamation case. I have heard it suggested that an option that the court might take with this would be to forbid him from having any kind of show at all, much like how some people who are convicted of cybercrimes can be denied internet access. I am of the opinion that Alex Jones should not have a show. I am also of the opinion that whether or not Alex Jones has a show is not a matter for the courts to decide. I'd be hard-pressed to find someone whose opinions I disagree with more, but I do not want him censored by the courts. I mean, unless he's doing stupid shit like making illegal medical claims, but then we run into fraud-type territory, and that's a whole other discussion. Question 69. Nice. Why do you repeat information from scientists when you have no idea what you're talking about? Well, depending on the topic, I often have a better than layman's understanding of the scientific topics I discuss, but better than layman is not the equivalent of being an expert in the field, so yes, I trust the experts for things that they know and I do not. I try to keep the repetition of information to things that I at least have a basic grasp on, and sometimes you can actually see me learning throughout my videos. I forget where it was, but if you find the first time I ever mentioned isochron dating, I barely knew what I was talking about and I hadn't quite absorbed it yet, so I kept the discussion brief and I didn't go into detail to avoid being wrong about stuff. Then, as I read more and came to understand it better, I started going into greater detail, and then eventually I made a video that included a pretty detailed explanation of isochron dating that, were I to have seen that video first, it would have helped me understand it a lot faster than I did. So basically, I try not to repeat information that I have no idea about, but if I am truly clueless on a topic, then I will tend to trust the experts in that topic more than I will trust myself by virtue of the fact that they are experts in that topic. Question 70. Why do you believe something can come from nothing? So, what was that earlier question about repeating information when you have no idea what you're talking about? Pot, meat kettle. Yeah, in cosmology, the models that posit an absolute beginning out of nothing are in the minority, with most cosmologies being functionally eternal in one way or another. Whether that be that energy existed before time, and so even though time had only been around for 13.8 billion years, energy predates it in whatever that would mean in a time without time, so it is essentially eternal. Or the universe goes through cycles with bounce points that we see in our universe as the Big Bang, which looks like a beginning point. Or entropy itself will reverse itself, and since the arrow of time is a function of entropy, then the universe extends temporally in both directions for an eternity, while seeming to have a beginning point from both perspectives, at the point of entropy reversal. Or any number of other models. And I'm not going to pretend to fully understand any of these models. I'd even go so far as to say that if any of the cosmologists that propose these models were to see this video, they would likely cringe at my oversimplified descriptions. But the point is that most cosmologists do not believe that the universe came from nothing. Question 71. How do you rationalize the belief that something can come from nothing? I don't. Question 72. Where is your evidence that something can come from nothing? I don't know. Read a book about it if you actually want to know. There are several of them. Question 73. Have you ever observed something coming from nothing? No. I haven't. Now, question for you. Have you ever observed nothing? No, you haven't. Nobody has. Nothing doesn't exist, and we don't know that nothing ever did exist. So how can you possibly make claims about how nothing would or would not behave? Question 74. Can you believe something without evidence? Yes, everyone can and does believe some things without evidence. But we should make sure that we have not just evidence, but good evidence for the important beliefs that inform our actions. Question 75. Do you believe in extraterrestrials? Yeah, see, there we go. I think there probably is life out there somewhere. I do not have evidence to support this, aside from the vast size of the universe. But I also don't make any life decisions based on this belief, so it really doesn't matter either way. Question 76. Do you believe in ghosts? No. The thing about aliens is that we know life exists here on Earth, so it's just a matter of extrapolation. Given the size of the universe and the number of exoplanets we've found, it's reasonable to assume that another Earth-like planet exists somewhere and that life managed to develop on it. Ghosts, though, we have no evidence whatsoever to believe they even exist in the first place. Question 77. Do you believe in demigods? No. Question 78. Do you believe in dinosaurs? Yes, I do. Are you trying to turn me into a liar? I said last Monday that I had never run across a Christian organization that didn't affirm the existence of dinosaurs. Are you about to be the first guy that I run into to deny their existence? I mean, granted, that still wouldn't really make me a liar. One person does not an organization make. Question 79. Do you believe the Earth is round or flat? Neither. It is an oblate spheroid. Question 80. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you sexy thing. I'm so sorry for that. I'm so very sorry. I'm sorry. Kidding aside, no, I don't believe in miracles. Question 81. Do you believe in anything supernatural? No, I have seen no reason to believe that anything supernatural exists. Question 82. Why do you accept whatever science says, no matter how ridiculous it is? I didn't accept that octopuses are aliens who rode to Earth on comets paper, but then I suppose this depends on what you mean by science here. Is any one particular paper classified as science? Does it need to reach the level of consensus first before it becomes classified as science? What about issues where there isn't much agreement, like the aforementioned cosmological models? Science is not some monolithic thing that you just accept in its entirety or deny in its entirety. But the consensus on things like evolution and the Big Bang is so strong that it would be ridiculous for me to not accept it. Question 83. Why do you accept whatever the government says, no matter how ridiculous it is? I don't. And I don't know why you think that I would. Like, this video was published at the beginning of the pandemic, when the government was, at least in the US, Donald Trump. I can't speak for everyone, but I was listening to what the scientists were saying then, not Mr. Cure It with Sunshine Up Your Butt Trump. Trump is on your side, or at least pretends to be. Question 84. Do you have any friends or family members that are Christian or religious in some capacity? Yes, my mother mainly. She is a lay worship leader in the United Church of Canada. Basically, she's a substitute preacher for when the regular preacher wants a vacation. Question 85. If so, do you love them? Yes. Question 86. Where does love come from? Well, that depends what you mean by love here. If you want it broken down clinically, it's a feeling that you get when certain chemicals are released in the brain. Psychologically, there's a lot going on there. There's a mixture of things like shared experiences, familiarity, common interests, personality traits, and more that can all have an impact on love. And I'm sure there are lots of other things that I could get into here. Love is way too broad a topic to have a simple answer. Question 87. Is love just a bunch of chemicals reacting in your brain? Yes, but as with all the emotions, there is more to it than that. Something emergent properties gestalt something. Also, being the result of chemical interactions does not make it less valuable. It just means that it starts with chemical reactions. Question 88. Do human beings have free will, or is everything predetermined? I don't know, but it appears as though we do have free will. This appearance could well be deceptive, but I don't know nearly enough about the subject to make a conclusive determination either way. Question 89. Do animals have free will? Ibid. Question 90. Do animals feel pain? Not all of them, but yes, there are many non-human animals that do feel pain. Question 91. Do animals have souls? No, I don't think souls are a thing that exists, so non-human animals wouldn't have this non-existent thing either. Question 92. Should animals have rights? Yes. Question 93. Should people have rights? Also yes. Question 94. Are human beings animals? Well, are human beings living organisms that feed on organic matter, typically have specialized sense organs and a nervous system, and are able to respond rapidly to stimuli? If yes, then yes, humans are animals by definition. Question 95. Does all life on Earth have a common ancestor? For our purposes here, yes. It is possible that life arose spontaneously on Earth more than once and had some descendants that survive today, but the evidence is more on the side of there having been one single common ancestor to all life on Earth. Question 96. Where is your evidence that all life on Earth has a common ancestor? In the genetics mostly. There have been some 30 genes that are common to every organism that we have studied for this. Every organism, with many of them sharing pretty much nothing in common except for those 30 genes. There is no reason for those 30 genes to have been conserved except for common ancestry. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for the evidence. Question 97. Do you believe that human beings came from monkeys? Well, if you're referring to modern monkeys, no. But we do share a common ancestor with them. Think of it like cousins. You don't come from your cousins, but you do share a common ancestor, your grandparents, with your cousins. Same thing with us and modern monkeys, but more distantly related. Question 98. Do you believe that monkeys came from fish? Well, not directly or immediately, but yes, the common ancestor of all mammals, if you go back far enough, would have been something like a lobe-finned fish. Question 99. Do you believe that fish came from an amoeba? No, I think they probably didn't. The last common ancestor for animals that would have been single-celled was likely something more akin to a bacterium than an amoeba. Pro tip, don't listen to Kent Hovind when he starts classifying things, he's not very good at it. Question 100, the coup de grace! Where did the amoeba come from? Well, as it turns out, amoeba is a paraphyletic term, which means that there are groups of organisms classified as amoebas that do not share a common ancestor, or rather that their common ancestor was not where it should be based on the evolution of the defining traits of an amoeba. Which suggests that amoebic traits are advantageous enough that they have evolved several times independently. So really, before I can answer this question, you'd have to get more specific about which amoeba you're talking about. Yes, I know this question is supposed to be the where did the first life come from gotcha, but I'd never looked into amoeba evolution before, so I decided to take his question literally, much like he wants us to take the Bible. That's it for this one. Today's comment of the day comes to us from Thunderdump, who says, Premise 1. A good God can exist, and therefore good beings can exist. Premise 2. God can create anything that can exist. Therefore, evil comes about through the novel relationship between creator and created. Pride is a sin of rebellion. As created things, God owns us, and the fall happened because we did not submit to his authority. There are a number of things going on here. First, I reject premise 1. I do not accept that a good God can exist, with or without the adjective good. I do not believe that a God can exist. But let's just grant it for argument's sake. Premise 2. God can create anything that can exist. I guess if part of the definition of God is that he has omnipotence, then sure. Therefore, evil comes about through the novel relationship between creator and created. How so? Is it impossible for an evil being to exist? Why are we assuming good is the default, with evil being, I guess, the lack of good, and not the other way around? And we accepted premise 1, that it is possible that a good God can exist. This does not mean that one does exist, just that it is possible. And this doesn't even get into the issues with God having complete ownership of us through the act of creating us. That's a whole new can of worms right there. This was a nice try at an argument, but I think you need to go back to the drawing board and find a way to connect a few more dots. Thanks for watching. Special thanks as always to my patrons, iOS Tilt Bill Gamer, Clench Eastwood, Mark McManus, Mark Hetcham, and all the rest, who are the answers to the many questions that are my channel. If you'd like to make some sense out of me, you can join us on Patreon for as little as $1 per week over at patreon.com/ViceRhino, or by supporting the channel through one of the other methods that can be found at links.vicerhino.com, which is also where you'll find links to my other projects. If for whatever reason you want to send me stuff, my P.O. Box address is in the description. See you next time!